Welcome to Dead Man Talking. Tonight's story is from the incredible mind of IrradiatedAnts from over on Reddit, No Sleep. And as ever, please do let us know what you thought down below in the comments box. Please do like and share. It really does help build the channel and our community further. And why not hashtag TeamFEAR and DMT's Cryptid Crew. And so, with that aside, let's get into tonight's story. And title: Louo-Garou. Let's get straight into that. The people who live in and around Glacier, Washington, right smack dab in the Mount Baker, Snoqualmie National Forest, began to hear strange sightings reported by hunters, farmers, hikers, campers in and around the area. And this is all the talk of the local watering hole, the Big Boar Bar, or the 3 Bs. That night in early September, just before deer hunting season, the bar is located in Maple Falls, a small town near Glacier. The owner of the bar, Billy Thompson, is behind the bar tonight, doing his usual. The bar has only been open for about 6 months, but is quite successful so far. The name of the bar is his idea and carries a double meaning. Boars have lately become a problem in the parts of Washington, Glacier and Maple Falls being home to some of those areas, and the name Big Boar can also be taken to mean big bore, as in large deer rifle. This is deer hunting country. That night the talk in the 3 Bs is all about these strange sightings. Neville Acton and Willie Graves are at the bar discussing the latest sightings made by the local retired farmer, Joe Briston, who lives near Maple Falls. Neville says, "Willie, Joe told me he'd seen one of them things himself, near the beginning of autumn, on a Friday. One of these dogman things we've been hearing about. And Joe said it was about 5 p.m. and the sun was just going down. He was driving east, so did not have the sun in his eyes, and said he saw the thing pretty clearly, but not for too long. He was in his pickup going down State Road 141, when about 100 feet in front of him he saw something bound across the road. And the road being that new 2-lane blacktop with shoulders on both sides, it amounted to about a 25-foot leap. And when he gets up to the spot, he stopped and looked to his left, and sees something that looked like it was human-shaped, but 'tweren't human. He said he had a dog's head, with 2 ears poking up, standing about 7 feet tall, on 2 legs, and it was looking back at him. He said it was about 30 feet back from the road. He swore that he saw it grin at him, turn and then disappear into the woods." And Willie says, "That don't mean nothing, Neville. You know Joe starts in early with the drinking on a Friday." And Billy is standing behind the bar, cleaning some glasses and wiping down the counter, listening to the two of them go on like that. When they seem to be running out of steam, he interjects, "Both you 2 old galoots ought to be knowing better. Ain't no such sightings of no dogman, or werewolves, or whatever you call them. Last thing that occurred around here, if and you remember, was last year, when that hiker from Seattle had that trouble where he was accidentally shot by some local Bigfoot hunters. Ain't no one ever spotted a Bigfoot neither. All these sightings are what they call mistaken identity." Nevertheless, the sightings continue to be reported. Jake Hawthorne is driving west along State Road 141 on his way to his deer stand. It is September 16th, deer hunting season for firearms started yesterday in the state of Washington. Jake's family, his parents to be exact, have an old friend named Joe Briston, who owns about 500 acres up and around Maple Falls. Joe permits Jake's family to hunt on his ground, and has allowed this for a long time. Last year, Jake paid a visit to Joe and got his permission to let him erect a deer stand on his land. Jake did so earlier this year, after asking Joe again, just to keep things on a friendly level. Joe is about 70 years old and doesn't farm anymore. Jake thinks Joe is a good, decent person. They like each other and enjoy each other's company. Jake is looking for the well-hidden road that branches off of 141 and goes north up towards the US-Canadian border. He is going slow, as it is about 6:30 a.m. and the sun will not be up until about 6:50 a.m. He's seen no other traffic on this lonely stretch of road for about the last 30 minutes. Squinting, he's hoping a turnoff will be showing up in his headlights. And thinking he may have passed it up, he at last sees it and slows down quickly, and then turns right onto the gravel road. It is moderately smooth and not rutted at all, not being travelled much, as it doesn't go anywhere. After about a mile, the gravel road fades out. There is another well-hidden road off of this one. It is a dirt road that goes off to the northwest. And having been this way a few times before, he doesn't hesitate and turns onto it. Now, this road, it's not as good as the gravel road. It is an old logging road, rotted, but unused for a long time. And the woods are slowly encroaching on this road, narrowing in places to where the truck has to scrape and squeak through. He travels slowly along it for about another mile till it dead ends into a wide turnaround. He's just able to turn around his truck and then stop. He is now on Joe's acreage. He chose this area because, it's quite remote and not easy to access. He doesn't think he will see any other deer hunters. And taking his rifle, a Remington Model 7 bolt-action 308 with a nice Leopold scope, his backpack and binoculars, he treks the rest of the way to the deer stand, which is about another half a mile to the north. When he reaches the deer stand, he hears the sounds of running hooves and rustling just to the left of the stand. A few seconds after that, 4 deer bust through the brush and into the clearing he is standing in. Without even a glance in his direction, they shoot across the clearing and slam through the small stream about 30 feet from the stand, run up the small rise and are gone on the other side, even before he can shuck his backpack. Jake is amazed, as he had never seen anything like that before. It is almost as though they are running from something, and one of them was a fine big buck. And cursing his luck that he wasn't already set up in his stand, he starts to climb the ladder. When he reaches the top, he sets his rifle on the footrest and against the safety railing. And taking off his backpack, he sets it down and puts on his safety harness. The sun has arisen about 10 minutes ago, so he has a fairly good view. And bringing the binoculars up to his eyes, which are hanging by the strap around his neck, he scans the woods to his right, south, in the direction where the deer went. Nothing. He mutters another low curse and pans the binoculars to the left. And to the left, the dense woods end, and there is a large field, about 300 yards wide by 500 yards long, going northwest to southeast. He picked this area because it was so remote and next to the large field. He hopes he can spot a buck crossing the field and bag one. From here, he's only about 5 miles from the border. Now he starts scanning the tree line on the opposite side of the field, panning to the left, when he thinks he passes a dark man shape just inside the tree line. Heaving a big sigh and again muttering under his breath, he pans back. It looks like this isn't as remote as he had hoped, as there must be another deer hunter over there in dark camo. When he finds the shape again, he starts focusing the binoculars on it. Puzzled by what is coming into focus, he lowers them from his eyes and tries to see it with his naked eyes. But it's too far away. And bringing the binoculars back up to his eyes, he sees that whatever it is not a man. About the bottom third is hidden by the underbrush, but he can now clearly see most of the rest. Is this a bear standing on its hind legs? No, it's obviously not a bear. It has a definite man shape, and he can see the stomach. It has well-defined abs, but not ballooned like a bodybuilder, or like a male Olympic gymnast. And he can tell it is a male. Scanning up the body, he can make out an extremely broad set of shoulders. The right arm is bent with a hand on a nearby tree. Whatever it is looking out into the field. The arm is very well muscled, but again not overblown. But there is something off about it. He thinks it is the length of the arm. The forearm is about 1.5 times the length it should be, and it ends in not a paw, not a hand, a cross between the two. It has 4 fingers and an opposable thumb. The fingers and thumb end in wicked-looking long claws. When he sees the head, he draws in a sharp breath. This is no bear, but he doesn't know what he is looking at. The head is too big for the body, and it looks like a dog or a wolf's head. It has tall ears that end with tufts of fur sticking up, larger than it should be snout like a bear, a big black nose and upper and lower teeth that he can clearly see. They look needle sharp. And the eyes seem to be the blue of a human's eyes. He has no perspective to judge how tall it is, and he again lowers the binoculars, thinking this can't be. He must be seeing things. Bringing them back up, he notices the fur seems to be brownish to black, and it's fairly long but quite fine, like a mink. Around the face and abdomen, the fur is absent, and the skin is black. Its ears are swiveling around, its snout raised up and wrinkling, as though it is trying to find a scent. And continuing to watch, the creature now steps out of the tree line, into the field, exposing the bottom third. And it has very muscular legs, but at the knee, they bend back like a dog. And the feet are not feet, nor paws, but a hybrid mix of both. The toes contain the same long sharp claws as the hands. Jake now knows he is looking at an apex predator, a killing machine. These things, they don't exist, he thinks to himself. Yet here it is. It is a werewolf. Or Jake amended Louo-Garou, using a French word, since this thing must have come down from Canada. It then suddenly drops on all fours and shoots off across the open field. He has to lower the binoculars, and he sees the black shape rocket across the field. It must have covered about 250 yards in 15 seconds, twice as fast as the fastest human, or faster. It then disappears into the tree line, now on his side of the field. Jay becomes very frightened after what he has seen. The reptilian brain, the oldest part of the human brain, has been triggered, and it is screaming the flight or fight response. What his ancient ancestors, who had come down out of the trees, knew all too well. Now he starts to shake and sweat. He wants to race down the ladder and bolt out of there and run for his truck as fast as he can. But there is a small portion of his higher brain functions that are asserting control. That part of his brain is telling him flight will be an exceedingly bad idea. And with that thing now on his side of the field, and fight, well now, that isn't even an option. With the clarity that a soldier experiences when facing a life or death battlefield situation, Jake realizes that to try and escape now may only attract his attention, and it will spot him. Jake doesn't think he will live long were he to be spotted, even with his rifle. Thinking of the best thing he can do will be to wait about 20 minutes, and if the thing does not come this way, well, he can, as silently and quietly as possible, descend the ladder, and then quickly return to his truck and leave. And 20 minutes later, Jake quietly unhooks his safety harness, stores it, and then binoculars in the backpack, puts it on, and is ready to descend the ladder, when he hears movement through the brush and leaves, off to his right. He freezes, looks down, and about 50 feet away sees something slowly approaching. It comes out of the woods and into the clearing and stops. Jake's worst fears are realized. It is here. The werewolf is just standing down there, dead still and dead quiet. He can now tell that it was between 7 to 8 feet tall, and it starts sniffing, snuffling, and slathering at the mouth, like it is thinking of rending and tearing and then eating its prey. Evilness and hatred are pouring off of it. Jake never felt anything like this before, but he is sure now. He can feel the wrongness of this thing. Like it doesn't belong here. It is even of this earth. Or it is a demon from some deep black pit of hell, whose killing lust and hatred have long ago driven it insane. And just by being near this thing, he feels he is losing his grip on his sanity and reasoning, and that soon he will have to scream, when it will turn and look up at him with a stare like a lover's desire. This desire will only be the desire to sink its muzzle deep into him, and dismember to feel his lifeblood flowing over it and eat him alive, while he shrieks his pain and agony. When he feels he can no longer hold in the scream, that this will be the end. It starts slowly moving off in the direction the deer have gone. He dares not look down on it for fear that some inner sixth sense it may possess might be triggered, and it will know that it is being watched. It crosses the stream, walks up the low ridge, and disappeared beyond. Jake is almost beyond rational thought now. Now all he wants to do is flight. His higher brain functions almost no longer in control. But there is an even greater fear that if he is to go wildly plunging through the woods back to his truck, he will come face to face with it. And were that to happen, what little mental control he has will disappear, and he will turn into a gibbering mound of flesh, just waiting for it to attack. He hopes his mind will remove itself from his body, and he will not feel his pending death. After about 10 minutes trying to calm himself, he still isn't able to move, the deep fear of running into it surging within him. It takes several more minutes to get up enough courage to climb down the ladder. Descending slowly and quietly, his movements are awkward and clumsy. From the biggest fright it ever had in his life, almost letting out a whimper, Jake desperately holds it in. He realizes he has to get a grip upon himself, or he is going to suffer a horrible and painful death. Now, standing at the base of the tree with his backpack on, his rifle in his hands, his eyes darting wildly around, making sure nothing is there, the woods are quiet and apparently possess no immediate threat. The overwhelming sense of evilness and wrongness are gone. Taking a large, quiet breath to try and settle himself, he suddenly lets out and starts slowly walking back to his truck. Unfortunately, he had to go in the same rough direction, south, as the Werewolf or Louo-Garou, he corrected himself, went. It takes all of his courage to start moving and keep moving. He moves slowly and as quietly as possible. And every time he makes an undue noise, every time he snaps a twig, he stops and frantically gazes around. His trek back to his truck is almost as frightening as seeing the werewolf at the base of his deer stand. The whole way back, Jake is expecting to see it staring out at him from behind a tree, and with a look of longing on its face. About halfway back to the truck, he hears a distant howl, a howl that starts deep and low, and then goes up in pitch and ends. Becoming immobile, he realizes as he looks down at himself that he let his water go, unable to control it, and suddenly curses himself. He knows that the smell of urine can give away his location if the thing is nearby. And now, unable to contain a small whimper, it escapes his lips. Eyes frantically dart around. He doesn't see anything hostile, and the howl seems to come from some distance away, but still in the direction that he is heading. Jake doesn't know what else to do. He has to make it back to the truck or they will never find his half-eaten body. He continues on, fear heavy on him, with every step he takes. As he walks, his wet camo pants go from warm to cool in the cool morning breeze that is blowing from the south. To Jake's credit, he still has enough coherent thought that he realizes he is downwind of it, and so it shouldn't catch his scent. Now, before he breaks into the clearing where the truck is parked, he shoulders his rifle, takes off his backpack, holding it in his left hand, and with his right, digs the truck keys out of his pocket. Upon reaching the clearing, he breaks into a run. He's on the right side of the truck, angling around the back of the truck to get to the driver's side. He skids to a sudden halt, his eyes bulging, his breath catching in his throat, and he is looking at what could have been a scene from a Wes Craven horror film, showing Dante's seventh circle of hell, violence. Laying in the road, into the side of the truck, is a young doe. It has been eviscerated. The blue-grey coils of intestines are pulled out and draped across the low brush around the scene, in a macabre draconian display of violence. The neck is broken, and an entire haunch and rear leg are missing. It looks like it has been pulled off with a savage strength, and Jake sees it hanging up in a nearby tree, the white leg bone poking out of the shredded haunch. There is blood everywhere, even splashed on the side of the truck. Now, openly sobbing now, he quickly gazes around, seeing nothing. He runs up to the truck, and at any second expecting to feel the pain of steel claws ripping into his back, hacking out huge hunks of flesh. And unlocking the door, he throws his rifle onto the passenger seat and does the same with the backpack. Slamming the door closed, he puts the keys in the ignition and looks up. The werewolf is standing in the middle of the dirt road, about 75 feet in front of him, screaming as the last coherent thought escapes him. His only thought is to get away. But he is unable to move. He is frozen in place. He is totally engulfed in fear, so strong he wonders if this is how prey feels. Is this how the old moose feels as he is taken down by the wolf pack? He has no thought to start the truck. Staring with wide eyes, he sees that the werewolf has a big young buck in his right hand. It is dead but doesn't show any wounds. It lifts the buck up into the air with one hand completely off the ground. Underneath all the fear, Jake had enough rational thought left that he estimated the buck weighs about 250 pounds. "Oh my dear God," he says out loud, watching it. It holds that deer up like that for about 10 seconds, not once showing any trembling or strain. Lowering it, the beast casually and nonchalantly walks to the left side of the road, wading into the brush and wood for about 20 feet. It then turns and looks at Jake. He now does have the thought to start the truck and does so, slowly driving out of there. He is limited to how fast he can go because the old logging road is narrow and rutted, and as he passes the werewolf on the left, it gives him a horrible snarl. After he passes it, he sees it in a rearview mirror, stepping back into the road and raising the carcass again. And it gives a great howl, and Jake can see its snout pointed to the sky as it does so. And the ordeal has caused his body several times to release huge amounts of adrenaline into his bloodstream. He is physically spent and mentally drained. It is difficult to keep the truck on the road. To crash it now would mean certain death, but he manages not to hit anything. And as he is nearing the gravel road that would take him to the State Road 141, it hits him with the weight of a collapsing brick wall. Making his way back to the truck, hearing deep, deep growls that he could feel in his chest, seeing fleeting glimpses of a dark shape darting through the woods on either side of him, occasionally hearing a howl further off, and then a later scene of violence and death around his truck. It is toying with him. It is letting him get away. Pulling out his bandana from his pocket, he wipes his eyes and nose. Now that he is starting to think clearly again, something else hits him. It is such a shock that his vision narrows down to a small tunnel, black all around it. He wants to slow the truck but doesn't, fearing it may try to chase him after all. And slowly the blackness recedes. The grisly display of the dead doe, when it howled and held up the dead buck after he passed it, it was telling him not to come back. It was showing him what would happen to him if he did come back. It was claiming this area as its own, its hunting ground. He realizes that it knew he would be able to see it in his rearview mirror. It is intelligent, maybe horribly so. And the werewolf knew that if it killed him, that it could have caused other humans to come and investigate. It knows it has to keep itself hidden from humans. The predator doesn't want prey to know it is there until it is too late. Jake wants out of there and to never come back. And pulling out onto State Road 141, he tightens his grip on the steering wheel till his knuckles are white, and with all of his will keeps from accelerating to where he would lose control. He thinks that he has to at least warn Joe what exists on his land. He wants out of there so bad that it takes all of his moral fibre to instead head to Joe's. And when Joe sees the physical and mental state he is in, and the blood on the side of his truck, he just might believe him. Wow. Suddenly another one. Wow. Short but absolutely packing a bite, ferociously chilling and awesomely accurate from many dogman or werewolf encounters and sightings. Could absolutely feel the tension on that one so much, and I hope you guys enjoyed that as much as I. Of course, a huge thank you to the incredible author, IrradiatedAnts from over on Reddit, No Sleep. I hope you enjoyed this one as much as I, Ants, and I'll certainly be keeping an eye on any further work from yourself in the future. Well, guys and girls as ever, you know the drill. Please do let us know what you thought down below in the comments box. Please do like and share. It really does help build the channel and our community further. And why not hashtag TeamFEAR and DMT's Cryptid Crew. Now, if you have a story to share, then why not get in touch with me with the contact email, which is as on screen. contactthedeadone@gmail.com. I really look forward to hearing from you. I hope you're all well and happy, guys, and taking a fight back to life and trying to stay fit and focused. But above all, remember, be safe, not sorry. He hopes his mind will remember the people who live in the people who live in and around the Glacier of Washington. The people who live in and around Glacier, Washington, right smack dab in the Mount Baker Snoqualmie. The people who live in and the people who live in and around. A few seconds after that, 4 deer bust through the brush and into the clearing he is standing in. Without